Hi, how's it going? I wanted to do a video talking about Final Fantasy VII Remake, getting thoughts off of my chest as I had just beaten it last night. Well, not really last night, more like this morning because I was up real late. And then, yeah, it was daylight by the time I finished. Doesn't matter. Point is, it's over. I beat the main story, didn't do all the side stuff. I don't typically do that in a game the first playthrough, but I will go back because ultimately I really enjoyed Final Fantasy VII Remake. I've had some criticisms of certain parts of it, and there's things that are troubling to me, I guess, but that doesn't take away from I had a blast playing the whole thing. So it is what it is. But I wanted to go into, I had so many different thoughts on so many different things, and a lot of it was spoiler stuff. So I wanted to do a video. I just figured that'd be the best way to get all this kind of thought out there, get it off my chest. But yeah, like I said, I'm gonna spoil stuff. So if you ain't beat it, maybe take it elsewhere. All right. So I wanted to I, I shared some of my thoughts before on the Mega 64 podcast, but that was they were kind of impressions from having not beaten the game yet. I had played mostly the first kind of half or however much. Yeah, when it started out, I really felt kind of put off a little bit. I didn't really like it at first. I was honestly mad the first day that I had Remake, and I think that's just because it felt like I wasn't given what I was kind of told. You know what I mean? Like I mean, I know, let me get this out of the way right now. I know remakes inherently have changes. um that is to be expected. For this to be exactly one to one would be insane and honestly not that interesting. The closest thing to a one to one remake that I can think of is the Link's Awakening Switch release that they did last year, and I liked that game, but ultimately it was bringing it to a new audience on the Switch, and it looked visually really cute, and that was cool, but that's not really what I was even looking for here. They're translating, that was just a fresh coat of paint all over this stuff. The script was largely the same. With Final Fantasy VII Remake, they're building it into a whole new system, a whole new they're just bringing this into a whole new world in a totally different way, and it's not going to play the same, and it's not, all these things were going to be different. So I went into this knowing that it's not like I expected it or wanted it to be one to one. But when I played the first portion of the game, I felt like 90% of what I was experiencing was not even in the realm of the original game, but rather just kind of filler stuff. And again, I know there's going to be new stuff. I mean, they're taking the first portion of the original FF7 and turning it into a 30-hour plus game. So I know there's going to be new material. But I felt like the kind of the point of Final Fantasy VII, the main plot, was kind of lost in the sauce with all this like, here's where you'll live. Be sure to talk to your neighbors and go here and find this guy's cats, and here's your landlord. And it was just a lot of filler stuff that personally I didn't think was that interesting. Now if it had, I'm not against going deeper into these characters that I love. I in fact, I want that. And ultimately I did like that they did that with some lesser characters like Biggs and Wedge and Jesse and whatever. Wasn't all the most interesting material though, in terms of like, sneak into my dad's house and take this thing. I just didn't think it was the most compelling material. And I felt like most of what I had played in those early portions was that. It just wasn't, to me, it's like, well, okay, I bought the remake of this super compelling story from years and years ago. Wasn't a perfect game, but it had an interesting story. That's what sucked people in. And the fact that it's kind of putting that in the background and doing all this kind of Yakuza side story stuff, I wasn't really that compelled by it. These are all complaints from the first portion of it, but it doesn't matter because to me, once I hit wall market and from there on, I felt like the game got kind of back to the point. And everything was driving towards that point, driving towards the interesting stuff. So yeah, that was a complaint I had about the early shit, but like I beat the game and I don't have that complaint as much. There was some filler later on, but I'm not talking about so much character stuff or whatever. It's more just hey, go to the sewer to find this thing. Okay, well that's fun. I have no problem with that. Oh, you know what? Oh, we forgot to look for this other thing. Maybe you should go back to the sewer. Okay, it's just kind of stuff that's like I felt like was there for the sake of padding the game out. And I will say, despite me liking the second half of the game way more, there was still a lot of that. There was stuff that I felt like I think our friend Johnny kind of said this best. Felt like stuff that was they were afraid of oh, if this is less than 30 hours, people are going to be pissed at us. So they put certain things in. I think that's fair to say, but that doesn't mean I didn't have fun playing it. That was just, again, to that point that I had played in the early parts, I was just kind of like, is this going to be the whole game? But it wasn't. In fact, I think they did the real main chunks of the story that needed to be done well. I think they did very, very well. But anyway, having played the first parts, I kind of felt like it was more Crisis Core 2 than it was this FF7. I just didn't know what they were trying to sell me. But it all came together in the ways that I wanted it to. And I think that they found great ways as it went on. I felt like some of they ham-fisted a lot of things into the beginning part to kind of just show you all this stuff, but I felt like the later portions of the game did really well, did a great job at taking these classic moments but turning them on their ear. And that's what a remake should do, is kind of like have these all these things that you love, but they're presented in a different way, or they play with your expectations. I think the later stuff did that really, really, really well, and Wall Market to me was the beginning of that. That part, I've said it before, was a triumph. That was everything I could have hoped that a remake of Final Fantasy VII would be, where things weren't 100% the same, but the DNA of it was there in a different energy and a different it was just so active and full of life and fun, and that same naughty kind of goofy energy that the old game had, but in a whole new light. That's what I thought they did such a good job with. The whole Wall Market portion, Honeybee Inn, and all that was, I think, maybe the highlight of the game for me. But I could say that too about like the Shinra building, all these tentpole parts of the game. I thought were done excellently. I thought were done really, really well. Adapting them to a modern thing. And I found that even when they would remove a part, like, they're not seeing the one of my favorite parts of the original game, I'll just say, is when you wake up in that you're locked in cells, and you wake up and all the cells are open and there's a trail of blood outside, and it's not clear who that is, but it's like kind of your first glimpse at Sephiroth and what he can do. That's not in this game, and for a minute I was like, no, you got to be kidding me, that was like one of the coolest scenes in that. But then you kind of get it in a different form later on, when you're looking for, when Genova is missing, and you start to see like residue from her whatever kind of residue that is, around, and that music kicks in, and you're kind of going like, uh-oh, what am I heading into? They kind of, again, they remixed it in interesting ways, playing with your expectations. It didn't happen there, but it happened here. Or oh, this is definitely going to happen, this guy's dead, he's not dead, and why is he not dead? Okay, they played with that in interesting ways. But some of the, I feel like some of the choices that they made to add to the game, though, I felt like were kind of an ingredient too many. When there's compelling character stuff happening and then those ghosts show up, it's kind of like, yeah, I'm dialed in on this, bro. Get these ghosts out of here. Like, what are we doing? I personally, I feel like there was a degree of overthinking, I think, some of the story choices in the remake. And now some people have told me that you know, oh, Rocco, there's, you know, it's a remake, there's going to be differences. As I've said, I expect that, but um I had a lot of people throw at me with the way this game goes, Let me just get, we'll get this out of the way. Um, you know, I had my issues with the beginning. It got way better. I did not like how it ended. I feel like the last chapter was super not needed. Um, Everything up to that, fucking awesome. Like just could not have surpassed my expectations better, personally, from what I could have hoped. I've been out of the Final Fantasy game for a while now. I feel like none of them in the last decade plus have been that interesting to me personally since 12. And even 12, I didn't really like the story in it, but it's a fun game to play. I guess I could say that about 10 as well. I don't love the story in 10, but really fun game to play. I love the battle system. Whatever. Anyway, this is the most compelling Final Fantasy's been in many years for me. Did not like the last chapter. And I say that not because, oh, it's different. Oh no, it's different. It can't be different. But it just reeks of overthought to me. This is not a difference such as like, oh, you thought it was going to end this way, but it went that way. We're talking like they punched a hole through the narrative of the entire Final Fantasy VII thing. And went full, you know, everyone's using this comparison, I hate to say it, but full Kingdom Hearts. I feel like they were doing such a good job up to that point of taking old material and remixing it, that when they just kind of like threw it all into fucking space and went with it, it wasn't needed. I don't really feel like Final Fantasy VII has a story that needs a meta narrative to it. Now, there's lots of things that have a meta narrative that are super interesting and can do it and pull it off, but I also don't think you need to implant that where it doesn't belong either. You know what I mean? If I was writing the new season of Blue's Clues, I wouldn't put, this is a terrible comparison, but like, you know what I mean? I wouldn't put like some kind of cerebral fucking out of body experience into that show, just like I wouldn't in Final Fantasy VII. And I'm not saying this, maybe it is a good comparison, because I'm not saying the original Final Fantasy VII is the most brilliant game of all time, but it has a compelling story and compelling characters. And I think they're strong enough that they stand on their own. And I think you can remix and play with expectations and dive into those characters more and pit them into new challenges and do all that without having some kind of bigger kind of meta thing that you kind of pile on top of it. Yeah. Here's what's going on with those characters. But look, there's ghosts trying to make everything fit this certain thing, and we've got to destroy those and fight fate and destroy this god thing that you've never seen before, which I guess is kind of a trope of Final Fantasy at this point, to have a giant boss that you've never seen before in your entire life and have that be the final battle. We got to do that. You know, it just feels like a lack of faith in your own characters and story that you had. I don't know. I think there's ways to subvert expectation without throwing some additional convoluted thing on top of it. Yeah, that ending, I just felt tired. I'm down for a twist. I'm down for a twist. I'm down for like, ooh, this left turned. You did not expect that left turn. It left turned. You know, sorry, you know, to your expectations. Fuck your expectations. I'm down with that kind of stuff. I mean, I've said that 1,000 times. I love the Evangelion rebuild movies, you know, but this was very different for me. And I'll explain why, because I don't know if I've done a very good job of explaining it in other forms. I'll try to explain it as best I can. I was just exhausted during that. Instead of wanting to know more and going like, whoa, what's going to happen with this end? Oh my gosh, Zach is alive. Oh, are we doing alternate timelines? Are we doing, there might be some stuff that I can take that I enjoy that with, but I'm just not here. And not because you can't change the original or you can't, it's got to stick to the script. Although I do think this game is at its strongest when it is sticking to the original script and turning it on its ear. I'm not interested here because I just have no faith in a follow-up that is interesting. Not to sound like an asshole, but I just don't feel like I've been around this whole Kingdom Hearts over explanation, over convoluted mess of a kind of thing that you have to like dig through. And I just feel like Final Fantasy VII was so successful because it was honestly like Star Wars. It was a ragtag band of misfits against this bigger thing. And to kind of pull it into this overcomplicated Kingdom Hearts type situation, it feels thematically inappropriate. It doesn't feel like this was the right place to do it. But that aside, whether you agree with that or not, or whether I'm, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm just spent on all of Final Fantasy kind of going into this. I always use the term Crystal Castles bullshit, like getting into all this talk of dreams and convoluted stuff. Kingdom Hearts took that to an even further level. That's why I bring it up as an example. I'm just spent on that. Like, I'm not interested. They to me have not pulled off compelling storytelling in over a decade. And to dangle this thing against over me like, oh hey, whoa, no, the next one might be a follow-up. It might be alternate timelines. It might be this. It might be that. It might be that. It just feels like a kid explaining a dream. You just, after 10 seconds of that, I'm just like, I'm just not interested. And I think why I was excited for FF7 Remake in the first place is I had kind of lost faith in the Final Fantasy storytelling. I had it no longer interested me. My brain didn't want that whole mess in it, and I lost faith in it. And so when they announced FF7 Remake in 2015, I was like, oh, thank you. This will be a Final Fantasy game I play because I know that the groundwork has already been laid, and even if they change a lot of stuff, it's going to be fun to play. And it was fun to play. I had a blast playing this. None of this is a negative review. I'm criticizing certain things. So, and I know sometimes it gets real black and white with that. Like, I can't believe you hated it. I did not hate it. I overall really fucking liked this game. I really enjoyed it. But the ending stuff, I just can't care. I just don't have faith that will be pulled off in a satisfying or interesting way. It's like, it's just a mess. And I kind of feel like they keep getting in their own way with Final Fantasy now. It's like they can't just tell the cool, concise story. And when Sakaguchi was producer on these games, that's what they were. Like I said, they were Star Wars. They were exciting, fun stories with great characters and romance and sweeping moments and feelings, And I feel like now everything has to be this tangled web of, it's, I don't know. There's times I'm down with that. I mean, for crying out loud, one of my favorite shows the last, I don't know how long, 10 years is the new Twin Peaks. You can't get more convoluted. I mean, that's the fucking Kingdom Hearts equivalent of television. It's so convoluted, but it it was really, it's so, you know, it's so satisfying. It's done so well, and it's crafted so expertly. And also, not every show is like that. But with Final Fantasy, I feel like they're all like that. There's no reprieve from it. There's if every game is Kingdom Hearts, then none of them are. You know what I mean? Like, oh, does that make sense? Like, it's just I don't I'm just not interested in going down that road. I'm just not. Maybe it'll end up being a cool game, whatever the follow-up is to this. But I honestly felt like all of that stuff was thrown in so kind of last minute. It felt like suddenly we're showing Zack, suddenly we're showing whatever that it almost felt like at the last minute they thought, hey, we got to give ourselves an out. Like, we do not want to remake the rest of FF7, right? Like, do we have a way to get out of this? You know, maybe that's, you know what I mean? It's like maybe that was a last minute decision to kind of get away from, hey, we're going to get diminishing returns if we just do the rest of this old game. Well, let's come up with something. I don't know. But anyway, now I know people have brought up and will continue. They have brought up to me before. Again, like, I liked the Evangelion Rebuild movies, which those, if you've never seen them, those are anime movies that retell the show, but then they started diverting and went different. And by the third movie that had come out, the story wasn't even the same. It was not a retelling of the show at all. So I've had a lot of people bring up to me, well, this is like the game equivalent of that. Like, why don't you like that? Like, what? This goes real weird. Why don't you appreciate that? Well, for the reasons I already mentioned, it felt like a big thing just kind of laid on top of a thing that was already working. Okay, fine, whatever. But I will say, here are kind of the differences to me between a remake taking a left turn and what FF7 FF7 Remake did with its ending and all that stuff. I feel like, first of all, just to say first and foremost, a remake of a movie, I feel like that's a way different situation than a remake of a game. If you were to announce one of each, if you remake a movie is just inherently a narrative. It's pointing a camera at shit and the things happen, So I think that comes with it. Yeah, it's going to be different. Okay, fine. Games, I think the context is different, even though I do expect changes with that too. It's not like you shouldn't. But games are inherently, something that is held back by technology. I think why people were excited. Let's remember why everyone was excited about FF7 Remake in the first place, or a lot of people were. I would say most people were, because it was just a game that had really compelling characters and story that was locked behind old technology. Either visually it was hard to stomach, or maybe you didn't have the hardware to play it anymore, one way or another, it was hard to just pick that up. So to have it in this modern context and see everything again, what we had originally was almost abstract. You kind of had to use your imagination to fill in like what things really looked like, or how, whatever. It was amazing to hear that, oh, we're going to see this classic story told through modern day technology. So we'll actually get to see all this stuff. That's exciting. Movie remakes don't exist in that form where it's like, oh, they're going to film it with a nicer camera, but that's it. It's going to be the same. No, that's totally lame. But people do get excited when a video game is remade with new technology. It's kind of a different game. Anyway, whatever with that. That's a, who cares? That's one thing. But I also think like this game did a really good job with the differences in just the character stuff and just stuff that were, things that were kind of connected to or inherent to the main story. I thought it did that really well, and it didn't keep things the same, and I like that. I thought it did a good job. It's the filler stuff in the beginning, or the filler stuff throughout that I'm kind of like, okay, this is just not wasting time, but taking time. I enjoyed playing it, but it was taking time. and the end just punching a hole through the whole thing that they had kind of crafted. Those are the issues that I feel here. And again, I really enjoyed the game, and I feel like Evangelion, if you're going to compare it, uh, was better written with its differences, and even up front they told you. I remember when they announced the Eva movies, it was like the first two are going to retell the story, and then who knows what happens after that. So they told you kind of up front. But that aside, I feel like it was all Eva changed itself through its characters and through it was the main story. I think with FF7 it was just there were a lot of things inserted into it that didn't have anything to do with the main story. And I would argue even the ending kind of didn't. And these things that were ghosts flying around or whatever, whispers, I think they called them, I just feel like they were an extra thought slapped on top. Not really a thing that was providing interesting development at any given moment. It was just kind of on top of what was already happening. But again, I like this game. I just thought that wasn't needed. And I saw an interview, people were pointing me to, there was an interview with, and I hope I'm making sense. This is all off the top of my head. So I don't know if I'm just rambling here, so I apologize if I am, but somebody pointed me to an interview where the creators of this game, which it was, I guess it's written by the original guy, Sakaguchi is not in charge anymore. So I think it's a very different atmosphere at Square Enix, and that can make a big difference on the game. I don't think it's as simple as like a movie where it's, oh, this guy wrote the script, that guy directed it. So you see both distinct styles. I think it's a lot more collaborative, a lot more, I don't know, that, the producer really handles a lot of that stuff. Or in terms of like kind of, mixing it all together, whatever. I think the producer oversees a lot more creatively than we think. And, Sakaguchi's gone. So they're not going to be like Star Wars. They're going to be like whatever they are now, But anyway, somebody pointed out an interview where the creators of FF7 Remake said they couldn't just do the same thing again because they thought people will play it and they'll get nostalgic, like, oh yeah, cool, I remember that, and that'll be the end of it. And they needed more. They didn't want to regurgitate the old game. But I think you can. I think you can. But I totally hear the point in not making it 1-to-1. I get it. But I think you can do it. I'll get that out of the way. I think you can do it. Because this is, again, just a story that is held back by old technology for a lot of people, and they just wanted to play it in this new context. So I think you could have, and people would have been really stoked. But I hear you. But I think you can do it in ways that don't break the entire narrative of this ongoing story. Like I said, I think it shows a lack of faith in these incredible characters you created. I think there's a lot of ways that you can do it without this fourth wall kind of breaking thing. I think that just comes off overthought. I really do. I just think it's kind of insane. You didn't have to go that far. I think there's ways to do it where they can exist in the same space and the same you have all the same ingredients you had before and just change them in different ways. I don't think they had to go as far as they did. So I don't know. These are just the thoughts off the top of my head. That being said, outside of like a bumpy beginning for me, I mean, I love that first half hour, don't get me wrong, but like just kind of after that, it was like I had to get my bearings. But once I did, I enjoyed the whole game very much. And until that last act, I would have been totally good with them. They end the motorcycle chase and it's like, all right, where are we going next? Okay, maybe like a run in with Sephiroth again or something. Again, I didn't mind that necessarily. I thought it was a little weird they showed him so soon. I wasn't ready for that, but I thought they paid it off good. You know what I mean? Just one more showdown with him and then just end it there. I didn't think it needed this whole extra thing. But again, I can't say it enough. The parts that I hoped would be good were really good. And I also want to point out that my biggest fear with this game, my biggest concern was that they weren't going to, when they said they're going to remake Final Fantasy VII. Honestly, my fear wasn't even story differences. It was that they weren't going to allow it to be funny and cute. You know what I mean? Like now when they do all this kind of new artwork and new material from FF7, it's all very dark looking and brooding, and Advent Children was kind of dry, and all that kind of stuff. And I was worried, like, oh, with this game, like, is there going to be room for that? Are they going to allow that? And I was so happy to see they did it perfect. I thought they found the perfect mix of serious and funny and cute. Like they got the perfect amounts of that. And so I really, that was my biggest concern, and they nailed that. They nailed that. And again, the tentpole moments that I was really looking forward to I thought were done excellently. Oh my God, when I kept waiting for the Hardy Daytona to show up, when Cloud's on that motorcycle. And again, they play with your expectations. Like, is it going to be here? No. Is it going to be here? No. And then when that fucking thing shows up, what a payoff. Oh my God, that scene was so well directed. And the visuals of the game are really incredible. I mean, that might be the best looking game I've ever played. And the soundtrack is a slam dunk. I mean, like, I can't, they did such a good job. There was original stuff, but there was remixes of the old stuff, and it came in at just the right moments where it would, like, kind of remind you of something, or touch on a certain thing in an audio way. And I really just loved that. And I loved collecting the jazzy versions of tracks and stuff like that. It was really cool. It was really cool. I at first I was kind of like, some of the new characters they introduced, I'm just like, I didn't need they're who is the kid who gives, Chadwick or whatever, was that his name? Chadwick? I don't know what the hell's the guy's name. Anyway, but he was fine. You would get like new summon materia for him, and that was kind of, cool. But like, having all these extra characters, they weren't really that interesting. And they were, diving into, oh, look, you'll see more of, you see more of this area or more of that, or we're going to tell you more about this. And some of them weren't that interesting to me, but there were things that I wasn't interested at first that I was later, like that character. I'm blanking on names right now, man. But like the guy who was outside of Don Corneo's place. I was like, who is this? Like, quit. We don't need we don't need all these new characters. Like, chill. We got enough. We're good. But when you went to see him a second time, even though I didn't care about going back to the sewers again, it kind of being a story of him wanting to, it kind of tied into the overall, him finding the thing that, from someone that he loved, and that it kind of became a personal story. I dug that. It ended up being like, oh, okay. There's something more going on here than just like, here's another person we can sell a toy of, you know what I mean? Like, I liked that. I don't know if I needed to see Don Corneo again, but I like that character so much that that was all right. It was filler, but it was okay. But yeah, overall, and the battle system was kicks ass. Like, the battle system was awesome. It was really, really exciting. And again, like most games, I just play the main story and I move on, but this was fun enough to play. It was really fun to play. And again, all the whole that whole world and those characters are fascinating enough that I'm totally interested in going back to it. You know, like I love the world of Death Stranding. You know, a lot of it is just delivering packages, but I believe in the world enough, and I'm entertained by that world enough that I love returning to that game, even though it's like, you know, normally I only like to play story related stuff, but even banal, just package deliveries, I've enjoyed because I love that world. And that's how I feel with this. I want to play more. I want to do new game or not new game plus. I guess you can pick a chapter and go back. Um, I'm excited to do that. I actually really want to play, and it doesn't sound like it's too hard to get 100% of everything in this game. You know, when a game, oh, it takes you 200 hours to get everything, I check out, but it doesn't sound like it's that much more, and so I'm excited to go back to that. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Is I really liked it. I really liked it, and I'm excited to play it and keep playing it. Oh, and going back to the soundtrack, there's like a 7-disc soundtrack coming out next month. Oh my god! Like I'm the kind of psychopath that still gets a CD. I want CDs, and I'll rip them. Whatever. I don't even have a CD player at this point. I'll rip them to my iPhone, but I like having the physical thing. And oh my god, it's got that jazzy music in it. Those remixes. I have to. That's like no brainer, no question. So I'm ordering that. You know, I'm excited about it. Am I getting messages and stuff? Yeah. But anyway, that's where I stand with it. I really enjoyed the body of the game. Started a little rough. Didn't like where it ended. I don't honestly have faith in the next one that much if it's gonna be that off the out of its gourd like that. I'm just not interested in that. I don't know. I just can't bring myself to get super hyped for that. I just like, yeah, if I hear it's good, okay, I'll check it out. But I honestly don't. I just don't. I just don't feel like they're going to. I don't know. I just don't. I'm wondering if we'll even see it. You know what I mean? I just feel like they um wanted to give something for people to talk about. I don't know. I really don't know what's next, and I kind of just don't know if I care that much. But this was fun. This was a lot of fun. And if the gameplay, if they make another game and the gameplay is like this and whatever, then maybe it'll be worth playing. I'll have to see. But yeah, I think yeah, there's things I would change about that. But really enjoy the game overall. Really enjoyed the game overall. And it's definitely worth playing. But it doesn't replace the original. If you never played the original, you still should. Does not replace that. It really is weird though. Like I know so many people that bought this who have never played the original, and they were like, "Oh, well, I'll play the remake. That's what I'll do." That now this, I don't know what they're even gonna say. Like, what does that ending even mean to them? You know, like I kind of feel like they're confused, and as a longtime player, I'm kind of like, "Why are you doing this?" I don't know. Feels like there was kind of no win there. And I guess that's what's frustrating is it just seemed like all they had to do was not do extra work. Like just end it at the end of the freeway, have one more little like Sephiroth fight, and you would have been done, and people would have gone like, shit, that was cool. But adding this whole extra thing, I don't know. I just I'm spent. I'm sure there's a lot of people that are like way into what what the implications are, but I am in the camp of should have done a straight remake with the differences along the way. But again, I know I'm repeating myself. I'm rambling, but I really wonder what people are going to think who have never played the original game before. And if you did, if you're in that situation, leave a comment. Let us know because I am curious what to think. There's a couple parts with that first shot when Zach pops up. I mean, I was just like, what? If you don't know who this is, what are you thinking right now? Are you just going, what? I don't know. Anyway, those are pretty much all the thoughts off the top of my head. I hope that made sense at all. Yeah. Anyway, if I feel the need to clarify, you can damn well expect another video. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to subject anyone to this crap.